This channel is sponsored by Pro Football Focus. NFL, college, and fantasy data for every player, every play, every game. Visit ProFootballFocus.com to learn more. Hey guys, and welcome back to Franchise Nation. I am your host, Moed Swami, and today I'm bringing you guys a recap of week number 3 in the 2016 NFL season. The Saints sit at 1-2, and we have some moves going on that I need to mention. But first and foremost, I just wanted to say one of my colleagues, Kyle Williams, has an article on why Drew Brees and this Saints team are struggling and what everyone needs to do as Brees continues his downward spiral. It's going to be an awesome article. It's in the description below, so make sure to click on that if you are aware. And yes, it is an article about this series, not just the Saints in general. So that'll be fun. I'm really honored and glad that he's on board for something like that. It's going to be a good time. So starting things off, we did cut CJ Spiller recently. That's the big one that is coming out of the camp. We cut him and we signed Daniel Lasco to from the practice squad to the main roster. We also ended up signing a bunch of players to the practice squad. Let me see. Practice squad, there we go. We signed Derek Kindred, DeJon Smith, Jordan Richards, and Sean Coleman to the practice squad. All of them were free agents at this time. The Browns had just released Kindred, and he's someone who we like. You know, he has a lot of speed to him, and if he can develop into a good player, then he might have a role for us. Maybe not as a primary safety, but at least as a good player. So with that being said, let's take a look at the league schedule. Take a look and see at the results across the league for week number 3. There will be no game in this episode because, of course, we were the primetime matchup. Starting things off, the New England Patriots defeated the Houston Texans 43-39 in a barn burner. Wow. Brock Osweiler, 473 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Garoppolo, 292, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and the Patriots are 3-0 to start off the season. LeGarrette Blount, 20 for 84 and a touchdown. Dion Lewis, now healthy, gets in on the action. Garoppolo has a rushing touchdown to add on as well. Braxton Miller and Will Fuller, the rookies, putting up big numbers. Hopkins put up pretty big numbers too, 6 for 115. Chris Hogan, 7-11 with a big game. Rob Gronkowski, 4 for 85 as well. The Arizona Cardinals have just not had a good start to the season. I really don't know why. They have so much talent. They lose 28-14 to the Buffalo Bills. Tyrod Taylor had a good game, 272, 2 touchdowns, and interception. Palmer looked good too, but just wasn't enough. In terms of rushing, David Johnson struggled. LaShawn McCoy, 28 for 124 and a touchdown. Reggie Bush had 10 more carries. They dominated time of possession. Fitz led the way. John Brown, Michael Floyd, tons of receptions, but Sammy Watkins, 4 for 137, finally had that explosion, even if it was only 4 receptions. The Titans beat the Raiders in overtime, one of the rare occurrences where the Raiders start out with the ball, drove down the field, kicked a field goal, and the Titans won off a touchdown. Don't see that very often, but that's really cool. Marcus Mariota, 239, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Derek Carr, 221, and 1 interception on the 1 touchdown on the game, no interceptions. DeMarco Murray and Antonio Andrews with tons of carries, combined 46 carries for the Titans. Latavius Murray, 21 carries as well. Kendall Wright, Delaney Walker, Seth Roberts, and of course, Noah Amari Cooper for the Raiders. The Redskins went on the road and knocked off the New York Giants despite a 10-point surge in the fourth quarter to cut it down to 1 possession. Kirk Cousins, 235, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions on 20 for 34 passing. Eli, 338, 3 touchdowns and a pick, but it was not enough. A lot of rushing from pretty much a lot of teams in the league. They're exploiting run defenses and trying to win that time of possession battle. Odell Beckham, 8 receptions for 113 and a score. Garcon had a touchdown. Sterling Shepard, Jordan Reed, and Dwayne Harris with touchdowns. And the rookie Josh Doxson, 2 receptions, but 2 touchdowns. The Cleveland Browns fall on the road to the Miami Dolphins 27-20. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill, only 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions on 23 pass attempts. That's a really poor number. Cody Kessler was the primary quarterback in this game, 158 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 12 for 20 passing. Don't know what happened to McCown or RG3, but that's not a good sign. Carlos Williams led the way in terms of rushing, and Isaiah Crowell added a touchdown. Receiving-wise, Corey Coleman, 7 for 71. Parker with the lone touchdown reception in the game. Actually, Aaron Foster has one too. So 2 receiving touchdowns for Miami as they do win. We have our first tie of the season. It comes between the Jaguars and the Ravens, 24-all. Blake Bortles, 216, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Flacco, 284, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Justin Forsett, 119 yards on almost 30 carries for 2 scores. TJ Yeldon put up some pretty good numbers as well. Denard Robinson with a rushing touchdown. Julius Thomas, 11 for 60, double-digit catches. Allen Hurns, 8 receptions, and Allen Robinson, 6 more. Just was not enough, and we'll see. Were there any missed field goals that helped set the tone in this game? Yes, Justin Tucker missed a field goal, and that was enough. Speeding things up a little bit, Packers beat the Lions 45-14. Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdowns, no picks, but Dan Orlovsky, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's just an ugly, ugly performance. Jordy Nelson, big game, Randall Cobb, and Richard Rodgers add on with a touchdown. Defensively, interceptions come from Sam Shields, Nevin Lawson, Clay Matthews, and Demarius Randall. The Broncos beat the Bengals in Cincy 24-20. Paxton Lynch has been the starter, and he puts up a pretty good game once more. 266, a touchdown, no interceptions. Dalton only 43% against the no-fly zone. That's a huge difference maker. Juwan Thompson, 10 carries for 12 yards, but 2 touchdowns and a fumble. Not exactly a good stat line. Demaryius Thomas, 7 for 90. Stevie Johnson, who they acquired via trade, 6 for 107, and A.J. Green put up 2 touchdowns. The Vikings went on the road and beat the Panthers 23-18. Sam Bradford had a pretty solid game, not great, 17 for 25, 215. Cam Newton, no passing touchdowns, no interceptions. AP with a fumble, Fozzie Whitaker with a fumble, and 2 rushing touchdowns. But Cam just never really got it going. Mark Tolbert with 1 rush for -3 yards. And Cam, 6 rushes for 27 yards, but nothing doing really there. The Rams obliterated the Bucs in Tampa Bay, 35-7. Led by Jared Goff. Case Keenum did get some playing time. Jameis Winston, 111 yards, 12 for 21 passing. Not exactly ideal. 30 rushing attempts for the Rams. That's not good that Benny Cunningham doubled the amount of rushing attempts of Todd Gurley. Hope he is all right. Chase Reynolds also had rushing attempts, as did Corey Hart. Just a lot of rushing by the Rams. Good to do with a rookie quarterback. Somehow, someway, the 49ers and Chip Kelly upset the Seahawks 39-33. Led by Blaine Gabbert, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Wilson, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And they somehow lose at home. Russell Wilson added a rushing touchdown, but nothing was doing for Seattle. Jeremy Curley, 7 for 104. He's a fantasy pickup to say the least. Riley Cooper got in on the action. Jermaine Kearse, 5 for 107 and 2 touchdowns. Defensively, who was the difference maker in this game? Navarro Bowman, Jimmy Ward, Tremaine Brock, and Antoine Bethea all had interceptions. In a low-scoring affair, the Chiefs beat the Jets 17-13. Taking a look at it, Fitzpatrick, 1 touchdown, no picks. Alex Smith, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not a great game from either quarterback, but enough. Matt Forte, 18 for 64. And it seems that Jamal Charles still is not healthy. And that's a big blow for them. Jeremy Maclin, 7 for 82 and a touchdown. Don't see it too often, but there have been 2 ties this week. This time, the Colts and the Chargers tie at 27 apiece. Taking a look at it, Andrew Luck and Phillip Rivers both over 350 passing yards. On the ground, Danny Woodhead, Frank Gore, Jordan Todman, and Melvin Gordon all getting pretty good rushing attempts. But this game does end in a tie. Dante Moncrief, 5 receptions, 167 and a touchdown. James Jones, 5 for 57 and 2 scores. The Steelers narrowly beat the Eagles 16-13 in overtime. Ben Roethlisberger, 301 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Carson Wentz, 251, 1 score and 1 interception on the game. Darren Sproles, 20 carries. D'Angelo Williams, 19 carries. Le'Veon Bell is hurt, so that is an issue for them, but that's not really surprising. Wendell Smallwood, 12 carries, 30 yards. Receiving, Martavis Bryant, 6 for 74. Aguilar, 5 for 98. Antonio Brown, 5 for 82. And lastly, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Bears 42-23. Led by Tony Romo, 322, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Jay Cutler, 242, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But it wasn't enough. Zeke added 2 touchdowns on the ground with a fumble. Trey Mason 19 for 73. Romo had a rushing touchdown as well. Jason Witten 7 for 55. Dez 6 for 120. No touchdowns, but Ezekiel Elliott also had a receiving touchdown. Now that we've taken a look at the schedule, let's look at the standings. We have 5 unbeatens. The surprise is the Tennessee Titans, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Steelers, and the Cowboys all remain unbeaten as well. I guess the Chargers are unbeaten as well at 2-0-1. Taking a look at divisions, Seahawks and Rams lead the way. 49ers 1-2, Cardinals 0-3, just getting shelled this season. Cowboys up top, Eagles 2-1, Skins and Giants next. In the NFC South, Falcons lead the way with everybody else at 1-2. Saints being outscored by 17 points thus far. The Packers lead the way in the NFC North as the Vikings sit at 1-2, Bears 0-3. On to the AFC. Broncos 3-0, Chargers 2-0-1, 1-2 for the Chiefs and Raiders. AFC East, Patriots have a 2-game lead already in the division, despite not having Tom Brady for 2 of those games. In the AFC South, Titans 3-0, Colts 0-2-1, Texans 1 game behind them at 2-1. And the AFC North, Steelers lead the way, Ravens 1-1-1, Browns and Bengals round things out. Taking a look at the injury report, nothing really to note for the Saints. For the Seahawks, Thomas Rawls and Cavell Connor both got hurt in last week's game. Le'Veon Bell will be out for another 4 weeks with a dislocated ankle. And Ladarius Green out with a dislocated hip. Ramon Foster also hurt as this team is taking a beating as of late. CJ Fedorowicz out for 4 weeks and AJ Bowie out for 2. For the Titans, Carl Klug is their really only new injury. Stephon Diggs broke his wrist out for 5 weeks. Everson Griffin's going to still miss 5 more weeks. Taking a look around the league, Kevin Zeitler will be out for 12 weeks with a broken tailbone. Yikes. Michael Johnson out 6 with a broken collarbone. Reggie Bush will miss 2 weeks with a shoulder tear as he just cannot stay healthy. On to the Browns. Duke Johnson out 6 weeks with a foot fracture and RG3 with a dislocated ankle out for 6 weeks as well. Ouch. On to the Chargers. King Dunlap is their only new injury as he'll miss 4 more weeks with a broken collarbone. Jay Howard and Jamal Charles both out with injuries as we keep it moving. Taking a look, T.Y. Hilton, upper arm fracture out for 5 more weeks, and Turbin with a dislocated ankle. Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott with a partial PCL tear will miss 7 weeks. That's a huge injury for the undefeated Cowboys. Moving on, Benny Logan, Ryan Matthews, who's always hurt. Brooks Reed, still the only injury new for them. Mike Davis, Carlos Hyde with a broken hand, Sean Drone. They're down a lot of running backs thus far. Victor Cruz out 3 weeks with a shoulder tear. Chris Ivory out 1 week with a dislocated ankle. The Jets have no new injuries. On to the Lions, Matthew Stafford, only injury there. The Panthers, without Andrew Norwell for 5 weeks. Still without Jonathan Stewart for 3 more. The Patriots, Shaq Mason, and John Sullivan, dislocated ankle out for 6 weeks. The Raiders without Amari Cooper, without Donald Penn for 3 weeks, and without Gabe Jackson for 4. They're getting really banged up. The Rams, Todd Gurley, shoulder tear out 3 weeks, could be a lot worse. TJ McDonald Jr. out 6 weeks with a broken wrist. Goff out 5 with a knee cartilage tear. On to the Ravens, and those are all old injuries. Those are just a lot of injuries. Redskins, Charles Sims, who they traded for, is out with broken ribs. NFC Player of the Week, Matt Ryan and Michael Bennett. Ryan was sublime on Monday Night Football, 18 for 22, 274 and 5 touchdowns. On the defensive side, Michael Bennett, 5 sacks in a losing effort for Seattle. Brock Osweiler, 32 for 42, 473 and 4 touchdowns for Houston. And Geno Atkins, 3 sacks, a forced fumble, and a recovery. Looking ahead, Drew Brees, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He hopes to clean that up as he has 8 total turnovers through the first 3 games. Osweiler, over 1,000 yards, only quarterback in that department. Touchdowns, Tony Romo leads the way, followed by Dalton and Rodgers. Interceptions, it has to be Brees with Russell Wilson right behind him. In the rushing game, Devonta Freeman leads the way with 459 yards at 6.9 yards per carry. That'll have to even out eventually. Forsett second, Doug Martin third, Blunt, then Anderson, then AP. Most rushing touchdowns goes to Patrick DeMarco and CJ Prosise, followed by Zeke Elliott. Fumbles, they've happened a bit. Jameis Winston and AP lead the way with 4 apiece. Receiving, Eric Decker, 24 receptions, is the most in the land. Receiving yards, AJ Green, 342, has him up there at number 1. Where is Michael Thomas? He is number 2, tied for number 2, with 23 receptions so far on the season. In terms of touchdowns, it's AJ Green, Odell Beckham, and then Virgil Green, followed by Jeremy Curley. On the defensive side of the ball, this is where we have to split things up into AFC and NFC. Sacks. 5 for Collins, 5 for Atkins, 5 for Vaughn, 4.5 for Wake, and 4.5 for Henry Anderson. Interceptions, 2 for William Gay. And who's leading the league in tackles? Kiko Alonso with 32. Taking a look at the NFC. Tahir Whitehead with 33, Vaccaro with 30. Tackles for a loss, Linval Joseph. Kenny Vaccaro, the only non-defensive lineman really up there. Danielle Ellerby has a few tackles for a loss as well. On sacks, 8 for Connor Barwin, 6.5 for Brandon Graham, 5 for Cam Jordan, 5 for Bennett, all in this week's game. Interceptions, 2 interceptions for Terrell Brown and for Sam Shields, and 2 for Tracy Porter. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. That was it for the news for this week. The Saints come in 14th in offensive yards and 29th in defensive. They need to make some changes. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Moonlight Swami, and we'll have our first prospect spotlight coming to you guys tomorrow. Peace!